Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to Entre Architect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. Today I'm thrilled to welcome Janine Arricchio, a sought-after business and mental fitness coach serving the design build community. With a remarkable blend of expertise and empathy, Janine brings 20 years of experience as an interior designer and project manager, along with a Columbia MBA and a background in corporate marketing. Her journey has also led her through more than a decade of personal growth and development, giving her unique insight into challenges of creative entrepreneurs like us. Janine combines the artistic, the scientific, and a touch of magic to help designers and builders build not just successful businesses, but also peace of mind. Janine Arricchio, welcome to Entre Architect Podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Very happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. We're going to have a conversation about things that a lot of architects struggle with. And so I'm looking forward to our conversation. Before we do that, our audience and I really love to learn the backgrounds of our guests. So I would love for you to share your origin story. When did you discover your passion for what you do, and who or what inspired you to get started?
Okay. Well, I do love talking about this. I think it's important. And it shows too that sometimes the ways to our passion, it can be a squiggly line and it can be a bumpy road. And mine certainly was. So I am a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist, which I think some folks can relate to. And for me, one big way that showed up was I really wanted my dad's approval. And he was a CEO, came up through finance and business. And I ended up making a lot of big decisions, like what I studied in school and the jobs I took and even who I married, trying to get his approval. And while that, your listeners heard that led to some great things like MBA from Columbia. And I worked for, Revlon and Godiva Chocolatier, and doors opened and I met amazing people. Ultimately, because that wasn't being true to myself, I really kind of hit a bottom when I became a firm owner or co-owner and realized that this job was a dream, but it was somebody else's dream. It wasn't mine. And at that time, I had been doing a lot of personal growth and development, and with some soul searching and actually some great privilege to step away from that business I was running, I came to realize that it's really my passion to help people understand what's in their mind and heart and what's true for them, and to help them live in alignment to that. And to also, work on, that people pleaser or that perfectionist. Guess what? That's not really helping you. And now, thank goodness, with the advancement of modern science and neuroscience, we know more and more how our brains work against us and how they can work for us. And so that's what I could just talk about all day long. And it's what I focus on with my clients.
I'm sure that there are many, many listeners right now listening to your story and recognizing lots of what you just said in themselves. And maybe they're in that situation now where they are in a position that they don't really feel like they should be, right? There's something happening. They know that there's something wrong. Maybe they're very successful. Maybe they have their own firms, but it's not right. Where along the line did you recognize that it wasn't working for you, that this dream that you had pursued, all this work and all this effort to get to where you are with an MBA from Columbia, working for all these high-end companies at very high levels, it took a lot of effort and a lot of work to do that. So when did you recognize that there was a problem? And then how did you reconcile that moment where you're saying, I'm not going to do this anymore? Because that's a huge decision, right?
It is. So my father's side of the family was Italian, and I am what my grandmother would have called stunad, which means like really thick head. And unfortunately for me, it takes me getting creamed and smashed over the head to sometimes wake up and see what's going on. Fortunately, I don't think that's the case for everybody, but it takes me getting a good whack in the head. And so really what it was, I was kind of brought to my knees very shortly after becoming a co-owner of the interior design firm. I lost both of my parents. And so I was in deep grief. And I got to tell you, I was probably one of those nightmare bosses a lot of the time, because this deep dissatisfaction was trying to come out of me, but I still didn't understand it yet. And I was also, my self-care had gone down the drain, and I was not exercising. So I was putting on weight. I was angry a lot of the times. Really what, for me, and I think for everybody, the signal of when just something needs your attention is when you're having these sort of negative feelings, fear, anger, frustration, disappointment, despair, guilt, resentment. Now, those are all natural. It's not that, oh, I'm having a bad feeling like I got to quit my job. But when you're in that more than you're not, it's a pretty good signal that something is up. And by the way, it's just how we're wired. The human brain has what's called a negativity bias, and it's there because it helped us survive. But 3-to-1, we are going to look for the negative. What's wrong? What's a problem? What's a possible threat? Judge others, judge ourselves. And so the thing that is different today, though, is that the way our system, our brain is created is that negative thought or feeling is just supposed to be a signal. And then we're supposed to respond and go, oh, I have to pay attention, and then settle back to like our stasis of more calm. But what has happened in our current society is that we're always in that fight or flight, that survival. It's just it's almost become like normalized, and the whole idea of like the grind, and you have to get ahead. And if you're not working X number of hours a week, then you're not working hard enough. And the constant scrolling and the bombardment of messages, we're just always adrenalized and in that place. So to get back to your question, that's what it was for me, was like really going, your emotional life and your self-care has just really gotten out of whack.
So how did you get from that point to what you're doing today, where you're helping other people? Because that decision to say, okay, well, I just started an interior design firm. I put a lot of effort into this. I'm going to just give it all up and go do something else. How did that happen?
Well, actually, just a small point of clarification that myself and a colleague bought out the founder of the firm that we bought. So we didn't just start. I hadn't gone through the whole startup, because that's a whole nother effort, right? So yes, it was expensive and it was a huge commitment, but it wasn't quite as starting it up. Okay, so here's another thing when I need to get knocked by the head. This time it was from like my greater angels, or from the universe, I guess. I knew I was passionate about personal growth. I had been devoting myself for years to learning about, just sort of how to be a better me. And what it took, and this is going to sound very California woo-woo, but it's the truth. I was getting acupuncture, and I go to a community acupuncture space. And this day she had a private room available and said, would you like that at no extra charge? I said, sure. She put these needles in my neck and other places that she'd never done before, which I now know is about sort of opening the channels up to whatever is greater than you, whatever you want to call it. And I just got a complete download about my current business, YesTM. I had been thinking I was going to go into animal welfare or something to do with regenerative agriculture. Go figure. And that day, it was like a business plan just came into my awareness. And I was like crying and laughing. And I asked for a pencil and paper, but I didn't even need to write it down because I remembered every little detail of it. And as I started to network and talk about that idea, all the doors just started opening. Whereas with the animal welfare and that thing, that was going nowhere. So that's kind of also how, when I know that something is sort of right, at least for the moment, is when it's easier and it's more of a flow thing than me forcing some solution. That's my will. And that's how I can get into trouble a lot of times.
So logistically, how did you shut one thing, or did you just sell to your partner, or how did that work?
My partner bought me out, and we had committed to one another to be in it for at least 2 years until we had a note from the founder, until the note was paid. And so I gave her, I think, at least 6 months notice, even before the note was paid, that I was going to be phasing out. And at the end of August of 2019, I, had my farewell party and started this business, moved into a new home, started this business. And, 2 months later, 3 months later, the pandemic started. So that was a whole nother part of the journey. And, all of this to say is that it was quite a privilege to be able to do that, to just stop cold turkey. And, I don't know if I'd recommend it for everybody. I think the slow, thoughtful, pace and exploring things more and having some ducks in a row and maybe some kind of stream of income that can help you as you're building the new thing could be very wise.
You said you started it and then the pandemic happened.
Yep.
My wife and I moved from New York, where that region we lived our entire lives. I lived in New Jersey and then lived in New York for my adult life, 20 years, and then moved from New York to North Carolina in 2019. And then the pandemic happened. And lots of good things and bad things happened because of that time. How did that situation with this new business and the focus of your new business, how did that impact the new business?
I'll never know for sure how it would have been had the pandemic not happened, but I call 2020 my practice year. Honestly, I was also in a coaching program and I got a coaching certification. I also was taking another certification in an energy modality and I got a coach right away. And within a few months, I was technically coaching people. And I think when you're doing something new, and my sense of this entrepreneurial thing is throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks at first. I tried to jump on the social media sort of bandwagon because I thought that's what I should do and what everyone else was doing. And ultimately I realized, gosh, every time I get on social media and I'm creating my content, I don't feel good, like physically. And so maybe that's negatively impacted my business, but I heard a wise person say, when it comes to business development and marketing, and like, do what feels good for you, what fits you. And so now I do most of my client creation and enrollment just through networking and one-on-one meetings and talking to audiences like this. And I feel that the right people will be attracted to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, especially if the social media doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Don't do it.
So who do you serve today and how do you serve them?
I serve creative entrepreneurs in this design build space. So mostly interior designers, architects, contractors, and some subcontractors. Typically, my clients have been in business for a while, 5-10 years or more, and they might have 2 to 15 employees. And so I work with them in a number of ways. I do one-on-one executive coaching. I do consulting. Right now, I'm working with an architecture firm in San Francisco where there's 3 principals, and I'm helping them develop their vision and their core values and really clearly define the roles and responsibilities and come up with some partner agreements, not legally, but like, how do we want to operate together? So, doing consulting like that. And then in addition, I have a 10-week group program, a small group program called my Mental Fitness Masterclass. And that is where I teach folks in a framework I'm trained in called positive intelligence, which is about rewiring your neural pathways to combat that negativity bias I talked about. We call it the saboteurs. And so that you can respond to life and work and all the challenges it's going to throw at you with a more positive outlook and without getting so stressed and upset.
Can you dive into that a little bit more, the positive intelligence? I think many architects suffer from exactly what you're talking about. And I think some practical steps on what that is, understanding what that is, and some things that they might be able to do would be really helpful.
Sure. I mean, and again, it's the human condition because this is how our brains are wired. And so nobody should feel bad about, oh, I keep doing this, or I am that, I do say yes when I mean no, that's the pleaser, or I do procrastinate, that's the avoider, or I am a perfectionist, that's the stickler. There's a controller and there's the hyperachiever, and none of it's bad. The thing is that when it's our survival brain that's driving the bus, it keeps us from our highest potential with that lasting peace of mind. And so this system is quite brilliant and quite effective. It's taken teachings from neuroscience, positive psychology, cognitive behavioral psychology, and performance science, and it boiled it down to sort of its simplest form. because simple, can be very effective. And it teaches you just some mindful sort of sensory exercises that you do, and you need to get into a practice of doing regularly. And that is how we sort of quiet down those saboteurs in the survival brain, and we can engage what we call the sage, or, the wiser self that is calm and creative and clear-headed and connected to purpose. So the practice is the big part of it. And we go through 10 weeks of that in my program, and it's supported by an app developed by Positive Intelligence. So while folks are creating this new practice of interrupting those saboteurs and intercepting them, they can also learn a lot of great just tools. And I love tools, and I love things I can put into practice right away. And I'm sure your listeners do too. And so some of those things are things like trying to maintain a 3-to-1 positive ratio of your thoughts and actions. Because if naturally we're going negative 3-to-1, to counterbalance that and get into a more positive space, if you intentionally have 3 positive thoughts for every negative one you have, or if it's in a relationship type of scenario, if you try to have 3 positive interactions for every negative one, that will start to turn the tide and help counteract that natural negativity bias we have.
Let's take a quick break to say thank you to our sponsors for their support of this episode. Architects, listen up. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world and is going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. I know this community of small firm architects very well, and I see many of you struggling. That's why I reached out to this episode's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote. And by filling out just a few questions, BetterHelp can match you with a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the show notes. It's betterhelp.com/architect. Just use that link, betterhelp.com/architect. Clicking that link helps support this podcast, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. So you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. If you need someone to talk to, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the show notes or visit betterhelp.com/architect. That's betterhelp.com/architect. Thank you to BetterHelp for supporting this podcast and for supporting our community of small firm architects. ARCAT's Spec Wizard is the tool that will help you save time writing specifications. Going through the manufacturer's specification line by line to find the right product leads to frustration and errors. And that's where Spec Wizard comes in. It's a free, patented tool that allows you to select products and options error-free and generate a 3-part specification in minutes. Go to arcat.com, that's ARCAT.com, and try Spec Wizard today. Please visit our sponsors today and thank them. Thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. So when you're doing that and you're thinking about your thoughts and which ones are negative and which ones are positive, are you literally tracking your thoughts? I mean, you're saying, okay, well, I just had that thought and that's a negative one. I should write that down. How do you actually go through that to be able to get the quantification of 3-to-1?
How I try to implement it is more, our mind is constantly thinking, right?
Right.
And so if all we're doing is tracking our thoughts, we're probably not going to get much else done.
Exactly.
So it might be like, okay, here's my day today. Here is a task I don't really like to do that might bring me down, or a person that is tough to interact with, or a meeting that's going to be challenging. Like, identify the thing that you want to work on, pick the one thing. And then you can intentionally try to generate like more positive thoughts than the negative ones, or in the interaction with that person. And an interaction, you don't have to make grand gestures. It could be greeting someone with a smile, or a genuine thank you, or what I appreciate about you is, because we so don't do that often enough, I should say. Many people
That's
do.
for sure.
So yeah, I would say pick your target for the day and then just focus on that. And eventually it becomes more of a habit.
Yeah. So it's being intentional about being positive.
Yes.
And when there's something that happens negatively, being intentionally say, oh, well, there's a negative thing that just happened.
Right.
Now let's make sure that I get a couple of, or two, three positive things that happen as well.
Yeah. And it's not to say that, some things happen and some people do and say things that are pretty awful, let's just say. And I don't want, it's not a Pollyanna gloss over things or if something's really like unacceptable behavior, but it's more, noticing that just pattern of your mind to be like, oh, and usually we start with a judgment, like some person, place, or thing is bad, or I'm bad. I've done something bad. And then, we're off to the races and we just stick with that and add on to that thread.
Yeah. Really, it's shifting from a negative mindset to a positive mindset intentionally.
Exactly.
And then that becomes a habit that you become a more positive thinking person.
And I think it's safe to say most of us aren't our most creative or our most productive or, our happiest when we're grinding on some negative thought or situation. And so it's not just about being positive, but it's the benefit of, a clearer head, more decisive, better decision making, creativity flows more. There's just all the positive benefits to it.
So you were going to start a second tool. What's the next tool on your list?
Well, we've all heard of the 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
That 80% of the value we generate comes from 20% of our efforts. Well, what these saboteurs do and what our survival brain does is it has us focus on the 80% less important stuff. And so we end up sort of exhausted and spent and less effective. But what our wiser self knows is that there's only the 20% that really needs our attention. And so another way of being intentional is if you notice yourself maybe getting upset about something or worrying or whatever, just ask yourself, okay, is this thing or person or task or result, is that in the 80% bucket or is it in the 20% bucket? As a recovering perfectionist and having that stickler saboteur, I have to do this all the time because my mind will be like, you have to do it all perfectly. And if you don't, you're ruined. You'll never get another client. You'll go out of business. And on down the line. So I have to be very intentional about like, is this the 20% or the 80?
Yeah. Much of what you're talking about sounds like and you mentioned it earlier, reprogramming your brain, right? It's a physical, chemical change that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can talk a little bit about it to the extent of my, limited knowledge.
Yeah.
But so we have these neural pathways in our brain that we now understand that. So because of that negativity bias, our natural inclination, sort of the well-worn narrative or path is the one that's going to react out of fear. And there's a problem and I have to save myself. And it was always thought for a long time that, oh, that's just the way things are. Well, we now know that our brain has plasticity and it's malleable. And so it's as simple as paying attention to physical sensations in any of your senses. You can do a tactile thing and just touch something near you and feel all the sensations of touch. You can stop and listen for the sounds around you. You can taste inside your mouth. You can just look very sharply at something in front of you. And that quiets down that survival brain and the saboteurs. And they hooked people up to functional MRI machines when they were doing these exercises. And it showed the survival region of their brain kind of going dark and these other parts lighting up. And over time, the gray matter in those areas actually grew. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So with intention and repetition and understanding, you can reprogram the way you think. And so it's a physical change that becomes permanent to who you are.
Yes. And it's really the way you respond. I think our first thought is always going to be that survival one. until our brains change, but you recognize it faster and you don't stay there as long. And therefore you can try a different way and take a different path.
All right. You have a list of tools. Let's move on to the next tool. What's your next thought?
Another one I like is 10% right. So our saboteurs like to be right. And it's, they will fight to the death to be right. And I think we've all experienced that doesn't really help and get us very far. So in any kind of conflict or even in idea generation and brainstorming, assuming that the other person is always at least 10% right, it immediately gets us out of that, having to be right and being a little more open-minded and curious. And so, we're in a creative field and the people listening are in a creative field. And how awful does it feel? Maybe you're in a charrette or you're talking with your boss and you throw out an idea and the first thing someone says is no, or that won't work because innovation process just killed right there. You've hit a dead end. But if you're the receiving person and can think, okay, what about this idea is good? And it's sort of like playing the yes and game. Yes, what I like about that idea is that you are thinking about using technology to solve this problem. And what that brings up for me is, and then you can add on your part. And that not analyzing, in the innovation process, it's just about quantity of ideas and not judging or qualifying ideas right away. And also you in a disagreement with someone or a conflict, looking for where that person is at least 10% right. It's never all or nothing. So remembering that 10% right it also kind of calms you down, I think, when I just think of that. It's like, oh, I don't have to fight for my position. Positions never, fighting on the level of positions, you don't get anywhere.
Yeah. I always tend to try to be very empathetic and put myself in the shoes of the other person.
You just mentioned the number one. So that sage part of our brain has 5 powers and empathize is the first one. And if we just stop there, you're so far ahead of the game. So yeah, empathy, curiosity, really non-judgmental curiosity, pretend you're an anthropologist and just what are all the facts? What's going on here? Empathize, explore, innovate, which is the idea generation and creativity, navigate, which is about purpose and kind of what's really important. And then activate is the clear-headed action that once you've gone through those others, you're able to act more clearly. But yeah, empathy is a big one.
Yeah, for sure. It not only helps you understand things better, but it also often will take an edge off of something that there's a conflict, right? But as soon as you put yourself in the other position, right, there's more to the story from the other person who's arguing with you, if it's an argument.
Well, you're shifting the energy, really. I mean, if I want to get a little back into the energy thing, and there's a neurological explanation too. So we have something called mirror neurons in our nervous system that if you, Mark, go to a more empathetic place and are you're going to calm down, your nervous system is going to calm down. And with mirror neurons, people around us, their nervous system starts to mirror ours. So you've probably been around someone who was freaking out and stressed out and overwhelmed, and you start feeling kind of icky and picking up on, so we can bring people down with us or we can lift them up. So yeah, it really diffuses things.
Yeah, it's a very effective thing. It comes naturally to me when I'm in crisis. My immediate mode is to calm.
Wow.
And to evaluate and to sort of see what's happening and then try to lead. I usually try to figure out how to solve the problem, but in a very calm way, which in the moment, it's always very surprising to myself that that's how I react, because as soon as the crisis is over, I fall apart. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you're a Jedi master. If you can do that in the moment, that's pretty high level.
Yeah. You could thank my mom.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah. You can thank your mom.
Yeah. Will do. I want to talk a little bit about happiness. should happiness be a goal? And is there such a thing as true happiness? I mean, when you're pursuing that,
Ugh.
all of these techniques and all this structure and trying to figure out the purpose of where you are and where you're going. And
Mhm.
if you're not in a good place, you're trying to move to a better place.
Mhm.
Is there ultimately a goal, and is the goal happiness?
I sure don't know. But to kind of respond to that, to your question, a couple of things. Whenever I hear the word should, I kind of bristle because to me, that's a red flag. There's some judgment and maybe even some shaming going on. Not that you're shaming me, but
Yeah, no, I understand. Yep.
those shoulds. So the way I define happiness, and I think people can insert their word for it, but for me, what it is it's that 3-to-1 thing again. When maybe 3 times out of 4, I am in more of a positive emotional space or headspace. So I'm calm. I'm in wonder and awe. I feel satisfied. I feel content. I feel curious. That's a positive emotion. Versus the opposite of that is when I spend more time feeling frustrated, disappointed, regret, resentment. So I don't know if there's like a single point that is happy. It's more of like a felt sense of just being in a more pleasing state most of the time. And I'm sure working toward that. I've had a meditation practice for years and I do this PQ practice or the positive intelligence practice because I've noticed other things in my life change with it.
Yes.
As I become more positive, content, happy, peaceful, satisfied, my physical health improves. I attract other people and things that are sort of at that same vibration, talking about those mirror neurons. I think I'm not as tight and constricted, and my thinking isn't as limited and it's more open. And that allows for just more abundance and gratitude. And so, yeah, I can't say what any one person should be going after. But for me, that's my work and my journey. And by no means am I here to represent that I am like cured. It's a journey and it's going to be a lifelong one.
It is a journey for sure. And I think that everybody is an individual and they all have their own goals and definitions of what happiness is and where the balance is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's not going to all be good. It's not going to all be positive. And you need those struggles to make the good good.
Yeah, to make the good seem good. I will say a key thing I did not mention, and is kind of the crux of the positive intelligence idea, is really believing that any situation or circumstance can be turned into a gift or opportunity. Because life is going to throw you little things daily that are hard, and then big things every now and then that really knock you on your butt. And with those, it can be longer to really find the gift or opportunity. But if you can just believe that, okay, this somehow can be turned into a gift, I can grow that empathy muscle and have more empathy for myself or the other person. There's some knowledge here that I can gain that can help me the next time. Maybe this bad thing inspires me to do something I've been wanting to do. That's an important mindset shift that can be hard. And people throw out, well, what about when, this really horrible thing happens? And again, it's not a Pollyanna sugarcoating, but it's more for yourself instead of getting drawn into the story and going down the narrative, becoming a sort of trapped by the negative narrative. Like, okay, maybe there's a silver lining here somewhere. I broke my ankle really badly 10 years ago, 3 weeks after I had started a new job. And I was on the couch for 3 months. I had reconstructive surgery. I just couldn't do anything. And ironically, I had been in a place right before that where I was just trying to do too much. I was spinning too many plates. My workload was super heavy. I was stressed out. And I got to tell you, 3 months staring out the window was like one of the best things that's ever happened to me. In addition, I had to ask for help and I had to receive it because I couldn't feed my cat. I couldn't carry anything. I couldn't do my laundry. I couldn't, go grocery shopping. So that was a lesson for me, was learning how to ask for help and how to receive it. And so something that initially I thought was bad, it really turned out to be a gift.
Yeah.
And I think we all have examples of things like that in our life.
Yeah, I agree for sure. How can people reach out to you and work with you? And what are the types of services that you offer, and what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So they can go to yes2yum.com, and the 2 is the number 2. And there's a little button on the top right corner of every page where you can schedule a 30-minute, just an info call. And one of my my mental fitness masterclasses, a new small pod, is starting in the end of January. And actually, I would love to offer your listeners a 10% discount code. So you guys could, I guess, put that in the show notes. I'll provide you with that.
Yep, we'll do that.
I also do one-on-one coaching. And like I said earlier, I do business consulting as well. If there's a part of your business that has been challenging or that you're trying to work through, I can help with that. One of my superpowers is project management. I just naturally know how to sort of manage projects and manage processes.
You have a lot of training in that field. So
yeah, I do. I mean, I cut my teeth as a brand manager in consumer products. That was like the real first experience with that. But it just comes naturally to me. And I'm a huge fan of process. And I know it's not why anybody got into this business. And I know it's not like the sexy part, but it's really crucial.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important. And I'm on Instagram at yes2yum, and I'm also on LinkedIn at Janine Arricchio. And yeah, I'd love to hear from people. I just love connecting with people in our business. I love this community. It's why I focused my business, solely on this community instead of some other industry.
There are a lot of special people in this community. And so
indeed,
it is a great community to work with.
And just to add a little side note, like my number one core value is beauty. And that's been a through line of my whole life as I look back. And like I call designers and architects the beauty makers, right? Like what you all are doing really is healing and can help, I believe, help save the world.
I agree.
That's my mission. And so that's another, passion of mine, or just why I focus on this community, is I see so many people who, are talented and want to make a difference. And yet we get bogged down and stressed out and overwhelmed and burnt out and all that. And so if I can help in that way at all to lessen that, that's a good thing.
All right. Yes2yum.com. So yes. The number 2, yes2yum. Before we wrap things up, I want to get your answer to our final question.
Okay.
What is one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
I tell all my clients to start a daily practice of some kind of stillness, meditation, something. I like to do it in the morning. If you can get up 10 minutes earlier and journal or just sit quietly, or if you pray or chant or whatever that is, it sounds like a little thing, but the ROI is kind of infinity in my experience. So that's what I would say.
Her name is Janine Arricchio. Yes2yum is the company. Yes2yum.com is the website. We'll have links to everything on the show notes, including the discount code for the January masterclass. So go to the show notes right now and go check out the discount code, and then go to Yes2yum and connect with Janine and say, hey, I got this discount code. What do I do with it? All right, Janine, thank you very much for joining us today at Entre Architect Podcast.
Thank you so much. This was really a fun conversation.
If you liked this episode of Entre Architect Podcast, please share a link to this episode with a friend. Either just click the share button or highlight the URL and send the link to this episode with a friend, because that's how Entre Architect has grown to serve thousands more architects just like you throughout the 10 plus years of Entre Architect. That's how we've grown, architect to architect. So I would love for you to share this episode and all the episodes with one friend every week. We'd love that. And thank you to our sponsors for this episode. We don't have an episode if there's no sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors, links to those sponsors, which you should go visit and click, and all the resources that we discussed today for this specific episode, they are all available at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Every episode that we've recorded is there, entrearchitect.com/podcast. Go click the links to the sponsors and say hello. Entre Architect is a member of the Gable Media Podcast Network. You should go visit that at gablemedia.com. That is the next evolution of interactive media and resources for the AEC community. You can now earn continuing education credits for listening to select episodes of this podcast, Entre Architect Podcast. Yes, AIA CEUs for listening to a podcast. It's there, and many other podcasts are there as well, and you can listen to all of them and get credit. Learn more about our program, Gable Members Program, at the gablemedia.com/members website. That's GABL media.com/members. And if you are a small firm architect, join us today at Entre Architect Network. That is the worldwide organization for small firm entrepreneur architects. If you own your own architecture firm, you are an entrepreneur architect. You are an Entre Architect. With weekly live group business coaching, we have business coaching there, monthly live business training with AIA CEUs, 2 a month, so 24 AIA credits per year, including 12 of those are HSWs. We have them in the membership. Business resources, all the resources you need to run your business, special session webinars, mastermind groups, and a thriving community of small firm architects just like you. Hundreds of architects are there waiting for you to join. So we provide the support and encouragement you need to succeed as a small firm architect. I know that you haven't been trained as a business person when you launched your firm. That's what we do. Come learn how to run a business at Entre Architect Network. And today you can go join right now for free for 30 days at this link, entrearchitect.com/30 days will give you free 30 days for membership. Go check it out at entrearchitect.com/30 days, and I will see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of Entre Architect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage, and I want you to remember 3 words: love, learn, share. Have a great day.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.